How many of you know that God don't want any junk in his presence? He don't really, I mean, he welcomes it, don't get me wrong, because you have to come to God just the way that you are. But when you get into the presence of God, there brings about change. In the presence of God, there brings about liberty. In the presence of God, God will make you whole. So I want to say this to you. I don't want you to feel that you can't get into his presence, but however, once you come into the presence of God, it provokes change. And so in order to get into the presence of God, and I'm not talking about just getting into the presence of God where you can say, okay, well, I feel the Spirit of God. No. I'm talking about getting to the presence of God where God is actually going to elevate you from one level to the next. I don't know about you, but I am tired of being in the level or in the position that I'm in. It will be a shame for you to go to work day in and day out just to stay a cashier. It will be a shame of you to go to work just to stay a secretary. If you're not going to work and looking to go to the next level, then why are you even going to work? I don't know about anybody else, but whenever I enter into something, whether it be work, relationship, church, I go expecting something. I don't want to date anybody and just have that person be my girlfriend for life. No, those days has been long gone and over with. I'm looking to get into a relationship which I can say I expect something back from it. But in order for me to get into a relationship, I have to do just what I said. You have to learn how to examine yourself. Thank you, sis, for telling me. You have to learn how to examine yourself. You have to find yourself getting into a place where you have to do a self-examination. And how do you do a self-examination? Well, you have to find yourself seeing whether or not you're at a point where you can get into the presence of God. You have to find out if you're at a point where you can be examined by somebody else. I don't know about nobody else, but I don't want to walk into the presence of nobody looking any kind of way. So it baffles me how we could go to church looking any kind of way, but then we want to get into the presence of God. It baffles me how we can go to church looking any kind of way, but then we expect God to bless us when we come to God halfway. I don't know about y'all, but whenever I receive something from God, I don't want a half gift. I don't want a half of blessing, because when I go to God, I'm looking for God for a total blessing. So when you go to him, you have to give God your all. Now, when I begin to ask God, give me a word that I can be able to share here with my listeners and with my viewers, and those that are following me. I want to tell you thank you. But God had given me a message, and he told me to tell you that it's time to take a selfie. That's right. It's time for us to take a selfie. Hey, Apostle, everybody give some love to the Apostle herself, J.G. Rice. Apostle, I love you. But listen, God had gave me a message, and he's telling me to tell you that it is time for you to take a selfie. That's right. I don't know about y'all, but or how many people have actually done this, but in my haste of studying, I came across and God had me to do a little bit of research, and I began to do some research on cameras. And I don't know why he had me do it, but many of you know that I'm a photographer, and one thing about me, anything I put myself in or anything that I attach myself to, I want to make sure that I know the why behind the matter. And so in my study session, I began to come to a place where God had me to focus on cameras. And as I begin to focus on a camera, I said, okay, well, now I understand that cameras was built in the 1800s and it was almost built on a fluke, but okay, it was not the camera that God actually drew my attention to. So I said, okay, well, God, where are you taking me in? And God, what is it that you're having me focus on? God said, it's not the actual camera I want you to focus on. He is saying, I want you to focus on the development. Okay, God. So as God began began to have me focus on the development, I began to do some research. And family, I've come to tell you that there are certain things that you need when you get ready to process a film. When you, I don't know about y'all, but we have moved and we have shifted to a new area where now things have become digital. But I don't know about y'all, I'm not that very old, but we used to have what was called a 35 millimeter camera. And a 35 millimeter camera, it was very delicate to the touch. And that's what God had me to focus on. As a Christian and as a new Christian, as a baby Christian in Christ, we are very delicate to the touch. And some of you know what I'm talking about. When you are newfound, when you become a brand new Christian, it seems like certain people don't touch you the right way, or certain people may rub you the wrong way. And so what ended up happening is God had me to focus on the 35 millimeter camera. And one thing that if you remember, when you had a 35 millimeter camera, Apostle Rice, I'm sure you can back me with this, is that when you had the camera, when you open up the back of the camera, that means when God opened up your life, there's one thing you had to remember to do. You had to make sure that you embed the 35 millimeter camera in the right place. Help me, somebody. When you begin to put the 35 millimeter cartridge inside of the camera, you had to then pull the camera, you had to pull the film over to the other side and begin to make sure that you were attached to the other side. Now, the beautiful thing about this was, at this particular point, it didn't matter where you touch. That's right. You got to let every man examine himself. Thank you. But at this point, when you begin to pull the footage or the film from one side to the other side, it didn't matter where you touched the film at, because it still had the opportunity to become exposed. Help me, somebody here. It doesn't matter where you are when you begin to actually come into Christ. The beautiful thing about it is, as long as you realize that you are empty and you need to get into the presence of God, long as you come, God knows exactly where to touch you. Help me, somebody here. Listen, God is trying to have me explain to you that it does not matter how many people pulled you. It doesn't matter how many times you feel like you have been tugged on. It does not matter how many times you feel like you had went through the trenches and the highways and the byways. God is saying, long as I can get you to the other side and get you connected, that is what God is looking for. He wants you to be just as the 35 millimeter film. He's saying, listen, I have you encamped into this. And so God is saying, let me pull you to the other side. Hey, cuz Ramona, how you doing, baby? God is saying, let me pull you to the other side. And so when you begin to be tugged and you begin to be pulled by God, God said, listen, there's a latch here for me to hold on to you. So God began to let you latch on to him. And ladies and gentlemen, I don't know about y'all, but you remember you had to roll the camera, and that's what you have to do. You have to learn how to get to a certain place where you let things begin to roll off your back. And when you get into the presence of God, all of the foolishness that people said about you, or all of the things that people talked about you, or all of the things that you went through, it really won't begin to matter anymore, because now you have found yourself into the presence of God. And ladies and gentlemen, I come to let you know that when you begin to close, when the chapter of the first phase of getting into the presence of God, when it closed, I mean, when you close the back of the 35 millimeter camera, at this point in life, you can begin to take your picture. And so what God had me to have you understand is, in order for us to get into the presence of God, people of God, men and women of God, we have to first stop and learn how to take a selfie. What are you saying, Minister Rembert? What I'm saying to you is this. We have to, first of all, learn how to examine ourselves. The first, and I'm reading from my Cliff Notes here, so please forgive me, but the first cell phone was built, the first cell phone camera, was built in June of 2000. And how many of y'all remember when we began to get cell phones with cameras, we began to just use them to take pictures here and there, and it really wasn't nothing. But about 3 years ago, we came to a point where we got to a point where we wanted to go into and shift into a newfound phenomenon, and it was called a selfie. Well, see, that's what God wanted us to do. God said, listen, in order for you to get into my presence, it's time for you to examine yourself. Listen, many of us, we would gauge ourselves off of how many likes on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram that we got from the selfie that we took. You know how it is. You get your camera, you want to perk your lips, you want to position yourself, and you got to make sure you got the right posture and the right stand, and then you begin to take your picture. And see, God is saying, when are you going to do that for me? When are you going to get into the right stance? When are you going to straighten up your posture? When are you going to make sure that you are getting the right amount of footage, and you begin to focus on me? So God is saying, listen, let me be the camera, and let you examine yourself. And when we begin to do that, ladies and gentlemen, that's when we're going to find out that we'll be able to get ready to step into the presence of God. But listen, we are not, at a point where we can do that just yet. So I pray that you are ready, because God is getting ready to show you by 8x10 of your life and what your destiny begins to look like. There's a lot of people out there that's getting ready to be mad at you because, you know, if the truth be told, they're not ready for what God is getting ready to do in your life. I come to serve notice over the house tonight, and to the men and women of God, that God is getting ready to elevate you. He's getting ready to shift you to another level. And see, when God get ready to shift you to the other level, your naysayers, your haters, the people that talked about you, the people that downgraded you, the people that downtrodden you, the people that said you'll never amount to anything, they're not going to be able to handle where God is getting ready to shift you at. God is getting ready to catapult you to a brand new level. And see, the thing about this is, when God shifts you to another level, it's not for everybody to see it. God sometimes have to hide you in the sacred place where he can begin to have you, as I said before, do an examination. So therefore, when he bring you out, then people won't be able to handle what God is getting ready to do with you in your life. Ladies and gentlemen, as I begin to examine, I know that the time is drawing near, so I don't want to hold you very long. But when I begin to think about this, I'm a holder of, and I'm a proud owner of an iPhone. And I'm going to take 5 more minutes of your time. I'm a proud owner of an iPhone 6S. Spent a lot of money on it, and I will be honest with you. When I spent the money on the phone, I don't know about y'all. I'm not into apps. I'm not into all of those different things. So one thing I do is I grab the phone, and I want to see how the camera works. Because I'm a photographer. So, because of that, I don't worry about megapixels. I don't worry about all that. I just worry about how the footage of the camera produced on the phone. So, what I began to do is, God had me focus in the midst of me studying. God said, Javon, grab your camera and grab your phone. And when I grabbed my phone, Tamara, God had me pay attention to something. He said, I want you to focus on one thing. And if you are an iPhone holder or a Galaxy holder, you know that your phone is equipped with something that's called filter. Yeah, your phone is equipped with something that's called a filter. I come to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it is at this point in your life where you just have to learn how to filter through it. How many of y'all have got to a point where I'm sick and tired of people talking about me? I'm sick and tired of giving this relationship my all. I'm sick and tired of going to church expecting something and not feeling anything. I'm sick and tired of getting to a point where my back is up against the wall and I call on so-called friends and they can't be found. I'm sick and tired of getting to the point where I'm out there doing for a so-called Negro that I wanted to give my life to, but he don't know how to cherish you. How many of y'all are getting to a point where you're tired of giving a certain situation or a certain person your all, and it seems as if every time you give something your all, it seems like you find yourself getting, as they say back in the days, I walk 3 steps forward, I get knocked 5 steps backwards. It seems as if every time I get ready to go to the next level, I get knocked back. But God has told me to tell you that you just have to filter through it. Ladies and gentlemen, the very first thing about a filter is when I begin to look at my iPhone, I noticed that the very first filter said a process. Ladies and gentlemen, I come to tell you that you are in the middle of your process. Listen, you can't give up. Don't get weary and well doing. Don't give up in the midst of it. Let me tell you something. God has a calling. God has a promise over your life. God has something that's store for you, but you can't give up in the middle of your process. God said, I want you to hang on in there. God is saying to you right now that you can't give up, because right now I have something on the other side. Listen, I come to preach to you tonight and encourage you through the word of God. Listen, in order for you to get everything that God has for you, you have to learn how to endure. It is a process. Everything that you're going through is just a process. It's just a test of your faith.